Nobody likes exclusivity. Sure, being part of an exclusive group offers a sense of pride and premium that only a select few will feel. But when is exclusivity ever really a good thing? The PC gaming market is facing a conflict that has been likened to the console wars between the Xbox and PS4 following the launch of Epic Games' own storefront. The Epic Games Store, or EGS for short, is the biggest threat that PC gaming juggernaut Steam has ever faced, and while some doubt that their strategy of snatching up big titles and slapping an exclusivity sticker on them will only get them so far, several others believe we are about to witness a serious shift in the PC gaming market. What's up everybody, and welcome to another video. Today, we'll be taking a look at Epic Games and how their good intentions behind the launch of their store may have turned sour by their battle against Steam. Now, this video isn't going to judge which is the superior platform, EGS or Steam, or be a hit piece on Epic Games. No, this video is going to focus on the exclusivity strategy that they have adopted for their storefront, how their actions have affected consumers' perception of them, and if this strategy is even the appropriate one for achieving the goals they have laid out. In December of 2018, Epic Games, the developers behind the global gaming phenomenon Fortnite, shook the PC gaming world with the launch of their own storefront to rival Valve's own Steam, which has been the market's leader in PC game sales for over a decade. Game launchers on the PC have popped up from developers/publishers in the past with small, dedicated contingents of fans flocking to them, but none had the bravado to directly attack Steam's biggest weakness, being developer-friendly. Valve is very often criticized for the 30% revenue split they take from developers who put their games on Steam, which sometimes leaves some indie dev studios barely breaking even. Epic Games, however, made it very clear that their aim was to be dev-friendly by launching a store that gives some power back to game developers. So when they announced that the EGS will provide a more favorable 12/88 split, optional user reviews, and exclusivity deals that help some small indie devs recoup all development costs, Steam turned into the sweating Jordan Peele meme. Or at least they would have if they weren't boasting 90 million monthly users. Yep, Steam is the toppest of top dogs in the PC gaming market, and that is something Epic has to seriously take into account. So, not only were they going to attack Steam's weakness, they were going to take its products away from them. First came The Division 2, then Metro Exodus, then, certainly the most controversial of all, Borderlands 3 signed on to be a 6-month-long EGS exclusive. Their intentions of giving back more to game developers may be good, but the way that Epic Games is forcing consumers to purchase products on a single platform is simply unfair. Epic Games' exclusivity strategy has led them to aggressively pursue big titles that they know will draw attention to their platform. However, the nature of their exclusivity pursuit has caused most of that attention to be negative. When it was announced on January 28 that Metro Exodus, the third installment in the Metro franchise, signed a deal to be exclusive to the EGS just 2 weeks before its release, fans of the franchise were not happy. Although the publishers still fulfilled the pre-orders on Steam, many fans felt this was a slap in the face, especially given that it was so close to the release date. In response, Steam issued an apology on the game's former store page, which is about the furthest they have chosen to address this ongoing conflict with the EGS. On April 3rd, it was announced that Borderlands 3, from the incredibly popular Borderlands franchise, would be an EGS-timed exclusive for 6 months. What followed was a wave of outrage as fans review-bombed the previous Borderlands titles on Steam, which just gave the EGS more appeal to developers, as optional user reviews would prevent unwarranted negative reviews on great games. Right up until its release a few weeks ago, Borderlands 3 was the subject of much controversy, both on part of the publishers, 2K Games, and this exclusivity deal. In between these two notable deals, several other highly anticipated titles announced exclusivity deals with Epic Games, such as Ancestors: The Humankind Odyssey, The Sinking City, as well as 3 games from developer Quantic Dream. While not many of these titles received a backlash individually, consumers were still and continue to be upset about Epic Games' strategy, and that anger only grows and grows with every game the EGS snatches up. One game announcement that got particularly messy was a small indie game called Ooblets. If you have heard of this game, it was most likely in a context in which the word toxic was used to varying degrees of outrage. The Ooblets exclusivity announcement was a situation in which both sides, the devs and consumers, did nothing but escalate the tension. The 2 devs behind the small passion project started off immediately on the wrong foot, with a rather condescending tweet that unleashed a firestorm of anger. What is strange about this, however, is that most of the anger, especially on the tiny Ooblets community on Reddit, came from users who were not part of the community. This shows just how negatively the EGS in general is perceived by consumers, and how many are unwilling to compromise with Epic Games. Ooblets community members on Reddit and Patreon were understandably hurt, but not flinging insults at the devs, who have always been cordial to their fans, which makes the approach to their initial statement that much more questionable. After the controversy started to die down just a little, Epic Games CEO Tim Sweeney did little to reduce the tension by tweeting his take on the entire debacle.
Bruh.
Now this is just frustrating, because Sweeney had the perfect opportunity to show that he cares for both developers and consumers alike by trying to mediate the dispute between the 2 groups, admit that there's fault on both sides, and try to repair relations. But no. Instead, we got a childish answer that did nothing but fuel more anger towards his storefront and his strategy. I understand, Mr. Sweeney, that the main goal of the EGS is to be dev-friendly, which is admirable, but being dev-friendly doesn't mean being anti-consumer as well. On the other hand, it is understandable why developers would prefer a store like the EGS from a financial standpoint, despite not treating consumers the best, as the only other option, Steam, requires devs to not only sacrifice a larger revenue cut, but also actively try to stay on Valve's good side. But when an incoming force tries to wrest control from the dominant presence in the industry through aggressive pursuit of products, it breeds an environment where distribution of great products are determined by big companies fighting for control, and the only losers in this case are the consumers. In Steam's defense, they have remained reserved in their responses to Epic's acquisitions, if issuing any at all. This is most likely thanks to their giant catalog of games and unrivaled player base that allows them to stay fairly unconcerned by Epic's strategy. Borderlands 3 was released a few weeks ago, and in terms of sales, it still did tremendously, despite the several controversies and despite being an Epic exclusive, which was an aspect that game journalists focused heavily on. The fact that exclusivity on the EGS did little to lessen the sales of Borderlands 3, as well as Metro Exodus and The Division 2. Well, of course they sold well. These are games from established franchises, made by established studios and developers, so obviously they are going to have larger fan bases that will still purchase the game on the EGS. However, what happens to the small indie devs that have exclusivity deals with Epic? Do you think anyone will care about their new small IPs, much less spend money to purchase the product? Probably not, and this is the main problem with Epic's exclusivity strategy. It still favors the big companies that already have franchises that fans will be willing to look past the exclusivity controversy for and buy their games. The money thrown at them from these deals is most likely just another payday, but for small indie devs, that money might determine the extent of how well their games turn out, considering that a lot of indie games are crowdfunded. This exclusivity strategy shows that Epic Games is so blinded by their righteous, supposed dev-friendly persona that they don't realize how unhelpful it is to the devs that need it the most. On top of all this, Epic Games has stated that they favor influencer marketing to help market games or hype releases. But again, how many streamers are streaming Ashen or Atomic Crops? And how many people are tuning into those streams? Most likely less than the likes of Borderlands 3. It isn't all bad, however. Epic Games has used the tremendous amount of wealth they generated from Fortnite's success to give away free games on the EGS every week. This is one avenue that they have been using to bring attention to indie games that don't have an audience yet, which works effectively, in theory at least, considering that consumers are more likely to try a product if it's free, like free taste tests in ice cream parlors. When the EGS launched back in December of 2018, it did so with very minimal features. To this day, there is no shopping cart, which is a very fundamental feature on any platform that sells products. There is no ability to browse or filter, making it very hard to explore their present, albeit fairly small, catalog of games. No forums for customers or players to discuss a game or communicate to developers any problems. There are optional user reviews that developers can choose to set, which is helpful for them because it prevents review bombing, but with no forums and no user reviews, there's really no way for customers to voice concerns or even admiration of a product. The store is also region locked for some countries, meaning even if you live outside the United States, you still have to pay in USD, which is pretty terrible for customers in developing countries where the local currency is much weaker than the dollar, and they will therefore have to pay more. And although in recent months they have added additional features such as cloud saves, which still prove to be an issue with Borderlands 3, features like a shopping cart are still some months away. The UI for the different main menu pages and store pages are clunky and unhelpful. There are still several problems for customers when launching games. There was even a huge controversy over security issues and spyware, with some users even going so far as to say that the entire store is controlled by the Chinese government, which is rather ridiculous, but it gives you a sense of how frustrated and angry people are with the store itself. Overall, the EGS itself has left a very bad taste in customers' mouths because of how unready it was at launch and still continues to be. It seems that the only reason they launched when they did was to snatch up big titles as exclusives in order for the store to gain the attention of the gaming industry. Well, consider the industry's attention gained, and Epic Games' reputation with consumers worsening by the day. After missing several roadmap goals since its initial release, and despite their continued exclusivity strategy, the EGS doesn't seem like it will make much of an impact on the PC market other than to give consumers reasons to keep supporting Steam. If Epic Games continues down this road of exclusivity and strong-arming consumers into using their platform, Steam will continue to dominate the market in both sales and reputation, despite having their own share of controversy. It truly is a shame because Epic Games has contributed so much to the gaming industry, from the widely popular and used Unreal Engine to even Infinity Blade. Yeah, I bet you didn't know they were the ones behind that absolute masterpiece of a mobile game. And with every EGS roadmap goal they miss, with every exclusive they snatch up, with every controversy they're involved in, their standing continues to deteriorate. If they wish to make any positive impact on the industry and market, they will realize that their exclusivity strategy is, in fact, going against the goals they set out to meet. Because although the revenue split is more favorable to devs, there won't be any revenue to split if consumers continue to hate their platform. This especially hurts the small indie devs that they have really started to push on their storefront because nobody will be there to see them. And even if there are, the store itself is such a mess, it's a wonder how people can use this platform. Competition is always good. If there is one platform, brand, company, whatever the case may be, controlling an entire market, they will have the power to set whatever terms they want, and consumers will suffer. But what the EGS is doing is not competing for consumers or market share. They are forcing themselves into it and forcing consumers to buy their products. Epic Games needs to stop exclusivity deals and invite players to use their store by taking time to fix the issues and make it work. They need to continue to provide in areas that Steam falls short on, that benefits both consumers and developers alike. Both parties, Epic Games and their exclusive club, and consumers need to stop with the name-calling, hostility, and work together towards making the PC market a better place for everyone. It will take a lot of work, and these suggestions are most certainly easier said than done. But if Epic Games can implement these changes, it will go a long way for both the Epic Games Store and the future of PC gaming. Alright, well, that's it for the video, guys. Yes, Epic Games has done some shady stuff, and their exclusivity strategy really, nobody likes it, let's be honest. But there really is potential for this storefront to make a really positive impact on the PC gaming market. So please, let's all of us try to do our best to make this store work. Also, I just want to recognize Tim Sweeney for coming out after this whole Blizzard, China, fuck Blizzard, by the way. Just as I was about to get into Overwatch, this stuff comes out. I'm never touching any Blizzard product ever. But Tim Sweeney did come out and say that every content creator or streamer or gamer or whatever playing his games or using his platform will never have to fear being censored because of political speech or whatnot. So good on you, Tim. Because of that, I might actually be inclined to buy a game on your store. If you got something interesting out of this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you have something to say in response or otherwise, do so in the comments down below. And I want to give a very special shout out and say thank you to my patrons on Patreon for this month. Thank you guys so much. I'm so grateful for your donations. And if you want to donate to me on Patreon, I'll link with that down in the description. And finally, if you want to support me, subscribe and see more content like this. Other than that, I'll see y'all in the next video. Goodbye.